We are mutual friends. Hello, I'm Dave Follomew. You can call me Dave.
I'm Matt. You can call me Matt.
And I'm Ian.
And we are mutual friends. We're supposed to say it together, you guys. Come on, you blew it.
Mutual friends.
Mutual friends.
All right. Woo!
One
And,
more time for sanity's sake.
Sanity's sake.
Mutual friends.
Mutual friends. It's like we finished each other's
sandwiches.
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 Yeah.
I won't say what I was thinking.
All right. Good job, guys. Welcome everyone listening. That was probably like maybe one or two of you, so we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you,
Darren. Matt still owes you $1.
Gold-plated, yo.
Gold-plated $1 bill. It must be an inside joke that I'm not familiar with. So you guys, have you guys had an opportunity to see the Netflix original Stranger Things?
Yes.
Hey.
Yes.
Yes.
So I was trying to explain the show to a coworker the other day. I didn't want to give any spoilers, but they asked me what the show is about. I didn't know how to answer it.
I actually don't have an answer for that other than telling them that it's not horror. Like, a lot of people watch the first episode and go, is this too scary or something? Like,
It's very tense.
it is tense, and it's...
I'd say it's a psychological thriller.
Yes, it's more of a thriller
Yes.
than...
A horror movie,
than a horror
for sure.
film, yeah. And I was talking to a friend of mine about that yesterday, and he actually said, horror is kind of more of the genre that, people you don't expect people to live.
Right.
And thriller
Spoiler
is,
alert.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to spoil too much, but
We're going to put a spoiler tag right
People
here.
die, people live. We'll say that.
As they do in
so
life.
I would say in
Just like real life.
I would
yes.
say in the thriller, that's more of a genre where both, yes, the Michael Jackson. No,
Very nice.
that's more of a genre where people can live and die. So, more than likely, people are going to live, I guess.
Hopefully.
So, first off, right when we finished, Christy, my wife, and myself, once we finished it, we looked at each other, and I'm like, well, that seemed pretty wrapped up. They left some things open to the imagination. She obviously went on and found out that they're slated to make a second season.
Most likely, yes.
How do you guys feel about a second season before we even get into any of it?
So I'm excited. I wanted a lot more. I loved the season. I want more. That's
I loved all the characters. Every character was amazingly well put together. There's some very stereotypical, like, hey, you have to have these, but the actors executed it very well. The token black kid, the goofy toothless friend,
yeah,
fat friend.
Yeah.
That's such a trope.
That's such a trope. You have to have
the
that.
toothless, fat, goofy friend. Yeah.
The gum-mouthed fat friend, and then the token black guy. No, but I really liked everything, and like you said, I really, really wanted more. But I felt like the story finalized and finished. Like, it's done. If they didn't make anything else, I would, as a viewer, feel satisfied. Yet I do want more, so I am excited for a second season, and I know they can execute it very well. But
yeah, so I also heard that they have quite a bit of content. Basically, they built out this universe, and they really wanted to, if they had the opportunity, I'm sure, build more on just one season.
Moron.
Build more than just one season. So they had built
More than.
More than.
They had built a good amount of backstory into this, and they didn't reveal everything. And they apparently have a little bit of spoiler here. There's a monster, and that monster has potentially a whole universe, or where its origin is from. Where did it come from? And they have a lot of this written down as far as that part of the universe is already built.
So, I was under the impression there was more than one of these creatures, but was there just one?
Well, that's what Molly thought. Was that there was, or maybe somebody else thought that. I don't know, but I thought there was something about how it was the main monster, whatever, was taking people back to make more monsters.
Oh, to make more.
To make more
Interesting.
monsters. And
I
that's
think that's what the end of the season hints at.
implies.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yep.
So I think that there's only one of them, and I think it's alone in that.
In this iteration of what
yes.
the series encapsulates.
Yes.
Or the season.
That's the feeling I got from it, was that it was this individual monster, and it was trying to, I don't know, create its own home, kind of a thing. I mean, that's a really weird way of saying it, I guess, but like it was trying to make more monsters. It was trying to feed and make more monsters, kind of thing.
So, what did you guys think of the very first episode when you first started watching it?
So immediately,
I don't know. I closed my eyes for half the time.
Oh, shut up!
Immediately loved the 3 kid characters.
Yep.
I loved all 4 together. Like I knew that the chapter name. So something's happening.
Yeah.
You don't know any of their names. So these 4 characters that they first show, it's like. It's fascinating and like, oh, what's going to happen? You don't realize what's going to happen. And like, even just the suspense and everything when it builds up to when it finally reveals who that kid is. Wow.
There needs to be some appreciation for the kid actors, because kid actors suck.
Yeah.
They're awful.
Right.
They are the worst thing ever.
And
but these kids were
all of them were
amazing.
very well.
Phenomenal.
Worked very well.
It's straight up E.T.
And the chemistry they had between between one another.
They must have been real friends in real life or something.
Or at least they are now.
Yeah. I think that worked really well for the series.
Just like that 70s show.
We can cut that part out.
Okay. So yeah, just right then and there, it was really amazing. Now, one thing that I was really skeptical with, the intro credits are amazing. Did that not feel like the 80s?
Everything. Loved the intro.
But one thing always threw me off, and it was the name Winona Ryder.
Ugh.
Everything that I've seen her in, it's hard to keep that suspension of disbelief going. And I'm like, oh, Winona Ryder, all right. I've been enjoying this so far. I'm going to give her a chance. And I thought she played Psycho very well, and I was shocked by it.
Yeah.
I was absolutely shocked.
She played concerned Psycho, like, I'm not crazy, but I'm crazy. Please help me, really, really well. I was really impressed.
Matt doesn't agree.
No. I mean, she only took me out a few times.
So, okay, so you already had the bad taste going into it, and you didn't give her a chance.
No, I gave her a chance. I gave her a chance.
I
gave her
a fair
chances. Yes.
Chances.
There's just certain words
that she says that it's like...
Well, certain words and the way there's certain, like, stutterance of words where you say it too much. It's like you're overacting almost.
Then we call that porky pigging.
Yes, porky pig. She porky
pigged. Right back to the.
And again, it didn't take me too far out of it, but it was just
enough to where
it was
like,
enough to be
it's
like,
Winona Ryder.
It's Winona Ryder, but you're acting. Where everybody else just seemed kind of real, I guess.
Right. So out of all the phenomenal actors, kid actors, that sheriff cop guy, my God, his backstory, everything, he played that part just perfect.
Yep.
I was pleasantly surprised with Winona Ryder. She's the only known name, I think.
He's kind of known, but not really.
He was in Newsroom, and he's been in several other films.
Sure. Well, I mean, everyone knows Winona Ryder. She's the one who shoplifted and went to jail or whatever, and was in like Adam Sandler movie and was in Beetlejuice and was like in
Little Women.
All these movies that it's like, oh yes, it's Winona Ryder.
Yeah, and we all know her name because of her name.
Because of her name.
Yeah, David Harbour is the cop, and I've seen him in a couple other things. He's actually in Suicide Squad, and he doesn't have major roles in anything I've seen him in, and so this is the first major role I've seen him in. Great job, really, really great job. He nailed it. When I first started watching the series, I kind of went, is this gonna be a guy that I don't like? Is he gonna be just a dirty cop that like
Well,
you don't like?
Before
and
it was even revealed that he was a cop. The first time I saw him, I rolled my eyes. I'm like, okay, here's another douchebag drunk guy that we get to like experience. He's probably gonna beat his kids or something stupid like that. And it's like, oh, he's a cop?
Yeah.
He's the sheriff? Oh.
And then you
He's
find
actually-
out his backstory, and you're like, oh, so
All right.
he's got character depth.
Did anyone else think the little girl was going to be his daughter?
I did only when Molly was like, "Oh my god, he's his daughter." I was like, "Oh wait, no, that can't be right." So no, I didn't believe it.
Okay.
But yes, I did think it.
I totally thought that for a while, that was going to be a big reveal, like, because those characters never crossed paths until later on, and then when they finally did,
And
I was like, oh.
So when that character first runs into the guy in the diner, I was like, this character, the guy who owns the diner, I was like, this character's great
Benny?
too. I was like, this character's great. Let's have more of this guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then really quickly that went down the drain.
Really quickly.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man, that's really heartbreaking. I really don't know who they're gonna what are they gonna do to make up for that? And I think they had enough other characters that really paid that off. And they have the tropey kind of things in this, like you were saying, they have tropes that they play off in this film a lot. And they have the douchebag bully kids at the school.
So well
They've
executed
got
with
the
those
young
guys, too.
bully kids. They've got the older bully kids with the girlfriends, and they're the jerks that want to always mess with other people, and
Yeah, they have a bunch of like mini characters, small sub characters that are like perfect.
yeah.
They don't come up. I mean, there are a few that are a little not campy, but
Well,
you know,
I think the impressive thing was
they
that
try it out and they're
managed-
like, "Thanks for trying out. You can have this small part." You know?
Well, I think the impressive thing too was that they managed to redeem some of those characters. Like, you were like, I don't like this character, and then you get later in the series and you're like, actually, they're doing like.
Who are you talking about?
Well, in particular,
The boyfriend Steve?
Yeah,
Okay.
because he was okay at the start, and then he went down quite a bit.
Yeah, he did.
Gazinga!
See myself out.
And
Bye.
then he kind of righted that ship and sailed off into the sunset, if you will. I think that the end of the series was a little bit surprising with that.
I agree. I thought that was kind of surprising, but at the same time, I didn't really care too much for the older sister actor.
Oh, sure.
I thought her acting was a little suspended of disbelief, now that I think of it. It always is like
We talk about
the girl
What's her
friend
name?
of Steve. The older
Nancy.
sister. Nancy.
Yes.
Nancy.
Nancy.
She did all right. I just think they could have casted that role better.
Sure.
That's my only hiccup. I thought she did it very well. I just the momentum of everything else, like even the psycho older brother with the camera, like he was casted very well, and everything like that. Steve, you really wanted to slug him every now and then, like you said, he redeemed himself.
Even the creepy teacher, like creepy science teacher, that like
One of my favorite characters.
He seemed super creepy, but then you find out that he just loves teaching kids. Like,
Yeah.
and like he even
It's
gives like
super awesome.
the kids even eventually get him to like he's like on a date with someone and he's
Not
like
now,
watching,
kids.
they're like watching a movie and he gets a telephone call and he goes and answers it and it's a kid on the other line end of the line and he's like, oh, I'm kind of busy, and he's like, well, didn't you always tell us to never stop trying to learn things and this and
You're
that?
right,
And
I
he's
did.
like, yeah, I did. And so he like explains this whole thing to them.
How to make a isolation chamber or whatever,
Isolation
or
booth.
Yeah.
a pool.
And so, yeah, it was. I thought that was kind of a cool.
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
no, like shit like that. That's something that you don't see, like a character like that. To most people would cop out, and the kids would be calling like, "Hey, we need this."
Yeah,
and
like
the parent,
teacher
would be
only
like,
exists.
no, we're not. So it exists as a roadblock that
Well-
they have to get through, which is the typical like, you have to have the character get through. You have to have the character get through, this roadblock, and that's the way. story goes is you have these characters that have to get through roadblocks or twists or turns or whatever. But it's such a cop out to have a parent be like, no. Where
Well-
this, it's just different, and it's nice to see that, and you appreciate it, I guess.
To elaborate on that, I mean, the teacher doesn't exist to tell the kids how to do things or give them information to help the plot along. This teacher also exists and has its own life. He has his own life. He's trying to be on a date. He goes to the funeral and he has sympathies for the child who was taken. And
By Liam Neeson.
By Liam Neeson, taken spelled with a 3.
Not really.
Not really. But yeah, no, I thought his character was great, and his interaction with the cousin, the quote unquote cousin, the psycho girl who was wearing the wig and everything. He was just like, where are you from? And he's trying to talk to the girl, and all the other kids are like answering for her. It's just one of the greatest interactions ever. But yeah, no, it's very well played. So yeah, I really like that.
So that was one of the big things I loved about this show, was that it felt like a real universe. Like, it felt like a real town, and like there was constantly something going on when you weren't seeing it.
Yes.
When you weren't being shown something,
you knew
something was happening.
The town is still existing.
Right.
Yep.
And they did that. They'd have characters, traverse distance while you weren't paying attention to them, and then they would cut to them, and you'd be like, "Why are they in this place?" And then they would explain it because they would be doing whatever would be necessary for the scene. But like, I feel like a lot of film and even TV shows don't do that with characters. They tend to connect the dots so much more thoroughly.
Right.
And maybe it's because there's a lot more characters in this show than there are in some others, but I felt they did a really good job of keeping that consistent, and the fact that when these characters are going these distances, it doesn't feel like no time is passing. It feels like there's some time passed. I did kind of get the
each
impression,
chapter is a day too, right? They almost they go just over a week long with the 8 chapters, right?
No, because they say like 1 month later and stuff.
Well, at the tail end,
when
of
it
the
was?
series, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think
Never
most of it
mind.
happens within a week or two.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
they literally refer to it from day to day, I believe.
Okay.
Yesterday,
Well, I know that there are some
2 days ago.
There are some scenes that feel like they suddenly got into the dark, and like why they waited to the dark to do some of the things that they did, I don't quite understand. Like,
Sure, like it would get dark quick.
They
or
went out to hunt the monster, and they waited until it got dark to do that.
Because it's
like,
scarier.
Why? Yeah. Well, and that's not incorrect. I mean, that's definitely probably why they did it in the film respect. But those characters would not have done that if they could do it during the day, right?
So, help me get some clarity here, because I was a little confused about this. When they're discussing the portal, was the portal moving around? Was it in different locations?
No.
Like, was
He
there one in the
making
shed?
Different portals.
She was just making new ones.
No,
believe so.
she was just manipulating their compasses.
No.
No.
I'm talking about like when the kid
monster.
was taken in the very beginning. He was in the shed. Wasn't there a portal in the shed?
So
Well, I think
they-
don't the portals, like he makes the portals or whatever,
he basically
And
just
then he
rips-
closes it
and then
behind
he
him.
closes it.
Yeah, he basically
Okay.
rips through reality, does that, and then closes it. Yeah.
The idea behind that whole shadow world is brilliant. That
Yeah.
they exist like literally right next to you,
Yeah.
but you can't see it. Yeah, really, really, really good, really cool.
Yeah. Did you guys see the 8-bit Stranger Things
Video
mock-up
game intro?
point? Yeah, it's like a point-and-click adventure mock-up that someone made. I'll just see if I can find it.
Oh, good. Yeah, let's.
I mean,
let's do that.
we can look at it later. But
Let's show everybody who's listening.
Let's hear it.
look it up, Google it. It's very cool.
Google it. So, the other point. Nope, got nothing. Got nothing.
How good was
so-
the little girl?
I thought
11?
she did
Yeah.
a very good job.
She was super good.
Really, really good. She was really good at playing scared and confused about like what was going on outside of where she lived.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, things could have been campy with kid actors. But when, she'd say fork or whatever, things she's never experienced, it wasn't weird. It was, oh, that makes sense. Like, I believe you that you don't know what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think.
Well, and she kept replaying through that stuff too. It's like promise.
Mm-hmm.
And
it wasn't. Yeah. If you don't say things like that right, in the right tone and the right context with the subtext,
then you might as well just be named Winona Ryder.
Basically, more or less.
Nice.
So they also have this really clever way of communicating between. So there's two universes. I don't know if we've kind of touched on this, but there's two universes in the show, and they have this kind of neat way of communicating between the universes, which is when you're near a light in
the dark.
like in the dark. Yeah, when you're in the darkness or
there's one world that's ours. The other world is basically like upside down.
Yeah.
Like
They
look
call
over
they literally
with
call
with
it
no
the
light.
They
No
literally
lights.
call it the upside down.
It's just really like dark and like gray.
It's almost green tinted, and it has like the particles floating in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
It's like
visually awesome.
like ash.
The woods, I thought the woods looked really, really cool. It was like when you try to film woods, especially at night, it's dark, so they have to illuminate trees.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were out hunting the monster, I was like, oh, it's so obvious, so painfully obvious that they are illuminating the trees. They would walk in front of the lights, and the shadows that were casted up on top of the trees. It was pretty harsh and pretty like, ugh. But then they showed the upside down, and it was like amazing looking. It was dark, and it didn't have any of that. And it's like, whoa. Okay, I see it now. I get the whole. This is well done. They're just doing that just to make it look even more normal, like this, and they can film.
They know what they're
Forest
doing.
in the Dark. Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing with that. So that was very very impressive, to say the least. When I first saw it, I was like, whoa, whoa.
So in the upside down, when there's a character near a light bulb, basically, and they don't exactly explain this, which I kind of like that in the show.
Well, it's
they
not,
don't.
and it's not like I think they might explain it next season.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
they're in the Department of Energy and all that shit, but it's not. You don't need to know, So it's nice that they let you. Like right now, we're all thinking about it.
So what you do know is that when the monster is near you in the upside down,
The lights
flicker.
That was the very first establishing shot of the entire series, is that blinking light. And man, oh man, that I was trying to wrap my head around how they even executed that, because that wasn't, hey, we're going to do this in post. They had to wire the lights a certain way to do that to make it look like it was coming towards the guy. But the one thing that they kind of explained is the fact that the kids were in the technology club at school, and that they have a little bit higher knowledge than your normal kid when it comes to that stuff. So that was a way to kind of just pawn it off and say, yeah, no, this is why it works. But keep going.
Well, so my little bit of that is that they basically, one of the characters kind of puts an alphabet on the wall to try and communicate across those dimensions. And I was a little bit...
With Christmas lights?
Right, with Christmas lights on the wall, kind of one over each excuse me, character of the alphabet. And
Letter.
Yeah, letter. Thank you. And how that character in the upside down is communicating is not entirely clear. And the other thing is, if they're near a light bulb, how close do they have to be? But if it's also, if they're not near a light, it just felt like there was some disconnect there, especially when one of the characters is literally holding a handful of lights.
And then the whole thing illuminates.
The whole thing lights.
Versus just the individual bulb on the strand of the Christmas light. One lights up.
But also, because that character doesn't exist in the upside down, how can she be holding the lights and the character in the upside down interact with those lights?
Well, he could be maybe like trying to like hug her or something.
Well, but she doesn't exist. So, and I get that. Like, how does he know where she is?
The lights. I think the lights exist. They span both dimensions.
Okay, but and they do. They definitely do. In you see them in the Upside Down. But I feel like when an object moves, it doesn't move immediately in the Upside Down. There's some kind of a disconnect there because
Right.
otherwise, like all inanimate objects that they hold would show up in a different place in the Upside Down, which is not the case.
Right.
And so that's where I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect, and they may have some reasoning explaining that. It's not it doesn't kill anything for me. It's just one of those things that I thought of, and I was like, yeah, I'll suspend disbelief that somehow they're interacting with that and that they just haven't explained it yet. But it's a little bit of a wonky thing when the character's holding something and that person doesn't exist in the other universe, but the object might, but also there's no... And that they did a good job of not showing that, right? Because they really focused on showing it in our reality, not in the Upside Down. When the characters are being interacted with, you really don't see what's happening in the Upside Down.
Right. Well, all right. So I'm surprised that is what bothers you. What bothered me the most and really broke my fourth wall, suspended my disbelief, was when he was screaming on the other side of the wall. How would that look to him? Like, was he literally outside of the house?
Yeah.
Was he
inside?
Is he inside the house? Is he like looking at a mirror of himself? Like that's what kind of got me going. Like, how does that work if there's an exact reverse replica that he's actually stuck in? Is he literally pounding at a wall? Did that wall open up already? Was the portal started was that doorway created there just at that moment in time, but he couldn't break through it? He didn't have enough energy or whatever, and only the monster can. Like, that one part where he's yelling at her through the doorway or through the wall, where does he exist in relation to
I guess that's kind of
the
interesting
dark
because
world?
if you think, I'm trying to think of like dimensionally, like if you're in real life, if you try to put those planes back to back,
You're not thinking fourth dimensionally.
How could you do that?
Portal physics.
Yeah. I guess I'm when she crawls into the trunk of the tree and she goes into the
She basically is, as she's crawling in, she's crawling out, right? That's
right,
my understanding
right.
of that.
So she's kind of like passing herself effectively. You know, it isn't, but like that's kind of what's happening.
She's not going into the tree.
It's almost opposite.
She's
right?
she's like basically going into that, like she's crossing through, and she's like essentially climbing out of the tree on the other side.
So that could basically be the mirror effect that we're
So
seeing.
all he's doing is he's running up to the wall because he can see his mom through. So then that's what it is. So I mean that's the one thing that was like kind of trying to figure it out and grasp reality of that, because
I
if
played
she
that a little bit and I was like, that's he could be on the other side, he could be on that side. And at that point in the show, they really hadn't explained much about the
right
the way that the other world works, the Upside Down works. So
there's a reason I haven't spoken in like 5 minutes.
Okay,
we're talking over you.
Mind equals blow.
I just believe it.
Yeah, there's no reason to try to figure it out.
No.
It just happened.
They'll tell me if it's important. Or you guys will.
Nice.
Duh.
Well, I think that's about time to wrap it up.
Fair enough.
So hope you've all enjoyed our thoughts on Stranger Things. Hopefully we didn't spoil too much. We kind of gave an indication that we might spoil a few things. But
Yeah. What you just heard has some spoilers. Sorry about the lack of advanced warning. But yes, thank you for listening in. Check out Stranger Things on Netflix. Definitely highly recommended.
Yes.
A seal of approval from Matt. All right. Thank you all.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.